Good evening and welcome back to season 3 of the Alex and Mo podcast, where we listen and we do not judge. Well, sometimes we do. But we are happy to have tonight with us Scott Gardner, a physical therapist in Maryland and the founder of United Physical Therapy Association, better known as UPTA. So, Scott, most people usually ask why? What's behind the why? Why did you find UPTA and what was the gap that you saw that was needed to be filled by forming this organization?
Well, Mo, as you know, I joined Maryland's chapter in 2023 and was VP. And the more I kind of dug into the association, the more I saw a lack of advocacy, not necessarily at the state level, but at the federal level. And so I dug into the 990, which is their tax return that any nonprofit has, and start looking where the money comes in from and where it goes out. So when you look at the APTA, from 2020 to 2022, they had profits of $12.5 million. Over that period of time, they spent $1.2 million on lobbying efforts. That's less than 1% of your dues. Now, I'm going to venture to say that most physical therapists, when they join, are expecting advocacy, whether they want some membership benefits, the advantages of a network, continuing education. Those are all supplemental. But when you're in the trenches treating every day, you want somebody to be your voice, because if you're working a long shift as a PT, which most of us do, you just don't really have the time at the end of the day to want to advocate. But what I found out is if we don't, things go bad. And it's not just us, it's all independent practitioners across the country. So it's not just isolated PT, but I found that there's just a lack, a gap, as you say, in the amount of money spent on lobbying and advocacy in general. Now, there's a disconnect. When people say lobbying, it doesn't mean giving campaign donations to a candidate. That's a PAC, right? And I understand that's important. If we plan on having a PAC, the difference being is the APTA's PAC is connected. So you're right off the bat, you're asking for $400 from Maryland to join. And then you're expecting these PTs to give it up 50 or 25 or 100. You're not going to do it. $400 is a lot of money to most people. So, but if you do an unconnected PAC or a non-connected PAC, we can take funds from anybody. You don't have to be a member. So there could be a PT that just says, I just want to give money to a physical therapy association that's going to advocate. Now, we can't per se oversee that PAC, and we can't really financially run it, but we can help advertise for it. And that money can go to that PAC, which can advocate for whatever things you want to work on at the national level. So I just saw a big gap in advocacy. And look, I'm 52 years old. I'm at the point in my life where if somebody doesn't think highly of what I'm doing, that's fine. I can take it. I've had a lot of detractors already, and that's fine. The APTA exists, and it's always going to exist. And there's a large subset of people that want to be a part of it, and that's fine. But if you're one of the, let's see, what's there, 75,000 PT members, if you're one of the other 175,000 that feel that you just don't have an association that's for you, why not try us? We welcome your opinions. We welcome your voice. We speak to the clinician, and that's what we're here for. The APTA is an academia-based association. Just look at the board of directors. I don't have to say anymore. Just count up the number of academics on it, the total number of seats, and what percent is our profession of academia? 1%. Yet they make up 7 out of 15 seats on that board. I mean, would they want me sitting on an academia-based association as a clinician? No. So why are they there?
So being devil's advocate, right? A lot of practice owners are, knee deep in running a business, and they don't really have the time to volunteer. I've had to cut back on a lot of things myself. So running for a position on the board of directors may not be on the list of priorities for most private practice owners. And we can't say that the people that are in academia aren't physical therapists. They are physical therapists as well too. Most of them do practice still or work in a different setting. So if more private practice owners are encouraged to run for positions to get elected, do you think that could maybe make things a little bit more balanced?
I would think so. And I wouldn't say just private practice owners. Mm-hmm. The UPTA, the way we're set up for our board, it will be representative of the profession. So right now, 43% of the profession is an outpatient. So 43% of the board will be outpatient. If that dynamic shifts and it's 40% home health, and 40% home health will be the board. So we'll reevaluate the seats on the board every few years to represent the professions. So home health's 20%. I think subacute's 20%. And that's the amount of seats they would have on the board. So to your point about people not wanting to get involved, that's an excuse. If they care about their practice and they care about their livelihood, they'll get involved. It's as simple as that. We're asking for 15 people out of 200,000+ physical therapists. There's got to be 15 of us that want to do it. And look, I tried to do it, and I got the big old stop sign because I'm not qualified. Because my resume, to quote, wasn't 20 pages long. So I apologize for opening a practice. And I apologize for embedding myself in my community and supporting my community with physical therapy, high quality physical therapy, and basically employing 20 people and raising a family and getting involved in Little League and other things during that time. So what they look for, and you're on the nominating committee now, so I hope you open up the transparency of how they choose candidates, because I was told that I'll be able to see that rubric afterwards, and guess what? I never saw it. I never knew why I wasn't slated to be a candidate. Now, would I have won? Probably not. But everybody deserves a chance to run, and there's too many barriers into the club to get nominated and slated. And it's just, it is what it is. I wasn't known; they didn't know who I was, and I'm an outsider. So after they snubbed me, I said, you know what? People don't tell me what I can't do. So I decided to do it myself. And look, they started in Charlie Morton's Steakhouse or whatever it was. I can't remember, in New York City. A handful of PTs got together and decided we need to have a profession to advocate for the profession, right? And it took them 10 years to get 1,000 members, right? So I'm at 200 members after 3 months. I'm well on my way, right? So I don't stress about it. I funded it myself, and I'm not really asking for a dime from it. All I care about is our profession, and I just want to see it thrive. And we shouldn't have to treat people for $50 a visit and triple book them and burn out our therapists. It's wrong. The cost of education is sky high. Look, the president of the APTA, do you know how much it costs to go to his school to get a PT degree? Does anybody here know? $140,000 on top of your 4-year degree. And the 3rd year is all clinical. So you're paying the school to have somebody like Nick, Alex, teach him. Make that make sense. And I've railed against that before, and I get a lot of pushback from academia on that. Like, you can't pay CIs to. It's like, why not? They're teachers at that point. Because they expect us to teach them billing, time management, and all those clinical skills that they don't learn in the school, and that's fine. But why don't you pay us to do it? Anyway, I don't want to keep rambling on and taking up all the time, but these are issues that...
I just want to ask you, can you see the questions in the comments that people are asking?
No, I cannot.
Okay,
hold on. I'm in the private chat. Let me ask comments. There we go. There's an echo in the audio. There we go.
Okay. We are taking care of that. There's one. Thank you for your time. Do you have a plan to make spending transparent?
Oh my gosh, do we ever? So we'll have to create a 990, and we will post it on our website. And guess how much you'll see the board of directors make? Guess how much right now you'll see for any salaries? We're entirely volunteer. Now, will the time come when we can't be volunteer? Of course. If we grow to 10,000 members, then we can't be a volunteer organization. We'll have to have staff. But did you know that the board of directors of the APTA makes total for all of them $275,000 a year? So divide that by 290.
The board of directors, or
the board of directors of the APTA, they each get an honorarium, right? So the total of that honorarium is $275,000. Divide that by 295. You'll probably get about 900. That's how many memberships it takes to pay the board. Now, do they deserve an honorarium? Sure, why not, right? It's a large organization. But did you also know that they gave themselves a raise in 2020? Most people didn't know that. Now, what all happened in 2020? Right.
A lot of challenges.
A lot of challenges for staff. Like a lot of people losing their jobs, getting laid off, wondering if they're going to get their next paycheck. And they decided that it would be good to give themselves a raise. So they went from $87.50 a year to $16.5. And our other directors went from 10 to 20. The president stayed at 25. It's not a lot of money, but it's basically just the principle behind it all. Your profession is struggling, and you gave yourself a raise. And you could have said at the end of the year, we don't want this right now. Somebody could have raised their hand in that boardroom and said, this isn't a good look. But how many people actually look at their 990 until Scott Gardner came along? Not many. If you asked 1,000 physical therapists what's their 990, I bet you find out that many of them don't know what I'm talking about. So anyway, I just find that to be hypocritical, and it frustrates me because I suffered during COVID as well. I had to close my clinic for 6 weeks, barely able to make payroll. So anyway, you can see why I get irritated. And do they? I don't know. I hope they do. And I hope to see some change with this new board. And hopefully the pressure of an outside organization will help them see the light. And that's the goal. Not to be adversarial necessarily, but to create pressure and change their focus. To focus on me, to focus on you, the ones that work every day making this profession the great profession it is. And that's why I'm here.
So Scott, first of all, thanks for coming on and spending time with us. I know that this has been, hot topic amongst the profession, on and off social media and stuff like that. My question too is, you led off with what seems to be your motivation for being financial, right? Said you looked into the financials of the PTA between 2020 and 2022. And there's disparities in your opinion and money coming in and how it's going out. How much of that is fueled from a personal standpoint, right? You mentioned that the majority of our profession outpatient. It's your physical shirt. I'm very aware, very in tune with physical. For those some don't know, when Phil first got off the ground, I'm part of that movement with Jim Abrams and all of those individuals down here in Florida. So how much of that is personal? Because you're in the outpatient world, when we hear reimbursement cuts and stuff like that, that's hitting you as a business owner, as a practitioner, more than it is going to hit Mo and myself if we're in home health. Nick feels it. He's outpatient in Ohio, but he's been very cool about how he's about and does his and still find a way to make it work just because of the community that he's in and how things operate. So how much of this is kind of fueled by just your personal effects of what is going on in our profession and your feeling for not being heard?
100%. It's definitely because of what I do and what setting I work in. But also I think we need to look out and maybe check on the people that work in the subacute settings in the nursing homes, because I see a lot of discontent in that sector too, where they're required to see productivity levels that are unattainable. So, but for me, yeah, it's personal because I see the change constantly. And the issue lies within the healthcare system and the health systems basically coming along and monopolizing areas. So, if you're in a state, all of a sudden your local hospital is now part of the larger hospital system that's in the city. And what happens is they come in and they buy out the independent practicing physicians. Those were the physicians you relied on for referrals. Now they're in a system and they self-refer within the system. So that same physician that might be a primary care physician that sent you patients galore, when he sends outside the system, they're not happy with that per se, or it's already internally set up. So when the person goes to the front desk, we've got it set up for you to go to this place in our system. And You can ask around at private practices across the country that are outside of large systems like that, and they'll tell you story after story. I don't have to sit here and tell you that. But that's all. The reason that all exists, if you go back to the Affordable Care Act, there is something called the medical loss ratio. Are you all familiar with that?
I know you've shared it with me, so I've looked into it.
All right. So the medical loss ratio was good intentions. Okay. It basically said that a health insurance needs to spend 80% of members' premiums on healthcare costs for its members. That leaves them with the only 20% of it available to make a profit. Okay. So if my member premiums are only $1 million in a year, that means I can only make at max $200,000 a year, right? But that's not going to happen because I have administrative costs. So if you look at United Healthcare in the third quarter of 2024, they had revenue of $100 billion, but only profit of $6 billion. So they only made a 6% profit, but it was on a lot of revenue, right? So how'd they do that? And had any of us ever heard of Optum before the Affordable Care Act? No, it didn't really even exist. So they vertically integrated their system. And then what they do is it's better for them to pay more for a procedure. So they would rather pay the inflated cost to a healthcare system for physical therapy or other services like an MRI. They'd rather pay $2,000 because all these plans have gotten so ridiculously expensive that for me, for example, my family of 4, because I'm 52 now, my kids are 19 and 22. My premiums monthly with my Blue Cross are $1,400, and my deductible for my family is $18,500. So I have to spend $35,000 a year of my money before Blue Cross spends a dime, unless it's some type of preventative care, right? So they're happy with the cost being expensive. If I go to get an MRI for $2,000 at a hospital, fantastic. They got to spend more money, but it's really my money. So that way premiums go up every year. So they drive revenue up every year. So that's the ill effects of the medical loss ratio. And if you think about it, Nick can answer this. Has your reimbursement rate gone up in the last 10 years for anything?
No. And you know, that is a really good point. And it's something that I see a lot. And I have that conversation with clinically very frequently with patients, explaining, why the cost, quarter mile down the road at a little YMCA is any different, regardless of whether I provided the treatment or they did. And, people understanding, their deductible, people don't understand our system. And it goes back to something that's a common theme for everything you guys have already talked about is systems are behaving exactly as they were designed. A lot of the things that you said, I've railed on before online and have had those conversations, and you get the pushback. But at the end of the day, the systems are working exactly as they're supposed to. And it takes a little bit of pushback. And even more importantly than the pushback, I think it takes the understanding from the other side. I want to just take time just as a segue here, and I've told Mo this. Alex and I are not APTA members, haven't been for a while. Mo is very involved in the APTA, and for her to be as open to these type of conversations is something that is a rarity. And I hope that the membership of the APTA actually recognize how valuable her insight is moving forward, and how fortunate they are to have somebody who actually is somebody who, for the first time in my 10 years since I've graduated, I feel like actually could facilitate change from within. I have a lot of, I'm not quite ready to join yet, but if there's one person who has pushed me further to, considering membership, it's definitely her. So I think she does deserve a lot of accolade for that, and that needs to be recognized. But in general, if we're not hearing the problems outside of our system, just as, we want to have this pushback, we want to have these conversations. Let me listen to your side. Okay, let me understand where you're coming from. And then I can make a decision on what I need to do to improve this, because it's not going to be all give and take on one side. It's going to have to be compromised somewhere. And I don't know where that point is going to be. But, hopefully these conversations at some point will drive that. Will it be in your lifetime or my lifetime as a clinician? I don't know. But the reality facing our patients, and ultimately that is the people that probably matter the most, is what we have to address here with these tough conversations.
So I see the big elephant in the room as the insurance companies. So forming UPTA as a competing organization, do you think that could get the work done in terms of advocating for better rates
I think I don't want to be a competing organization. Everybody views me as that, and I don't want to be adversarial. Though at times it may seem like that, and the way I come across it definitely sounds like that. But at the end of the day, we're all on the same boat, and we need to work together. So my goal is to capture as many non-APTA members like Nick and Alex to join and be.
No, if you get them to join you before I get them to join.
So they're always on the podcast. Maybe I'll replace them on the podcast then. How's that? But people, if I can get more non-members to join. Now, if they join the UPTA, but they join the APTA and they're vocal and they give some pushback, that's good. We need louder voices. Look, I was an absolute unknown entity in November of 2023. Now people actually somewhat recognize my name. Now, whether they put a smiley face emoji behind it or a mean face emoji behind it, I don't know. But at least I'm starting conversation. We need to engage. And look, we need to capture the students. So I'll give an example. The closest school to me is UMES. They had somebody from Maryland come down and talk. Didn't move the needle on any of the students. None. Because if they had me go out there and tell my stories and be animated, I bet you I could have moved the needle, but that's just me talking. So we need more animated people to really just be like, we need this, this, and this, to really drive it home that, like, the students, if we can capture them before they get out of school, like, they're all members, right? There's 25,000 student members, right? Well, how come membership never changes every year? You ever think about that? You got 8,700 kids graduating every year as PTs, but that membership tally never changes from 100,000. It stays 100, 99.9, 101. It goes like that. It never moves. So all 8,700 quit, and then 8,700 new ones join as first-year students. That's a problem. That's a problem. You need to look yourself in the mirror and say, why aren't they staying? They don't see value. Because every chapter across the country is either not doing a good job educating these students when they have the day where the APTA even talks, or I don't know what it is, but something isn't getting these people to join and stay. And if you could get 8,700 new PTs joining the APTA every year, my gosh, you'd be up to 200,000 in about, 9 years from now when I'm retiring. And then you'd have an even stronger association. So that's the problem. We're altruistic, right? We love people and our patients. That's why we all did it. We care about our patients. But we're apathetic when it comes to doing what we need to do to advocate for ourselves. Because, we're all like, oh, Mrs. Smith doesn't have her off today, but that's okay. I'll see her. She's already here. We'll just eat that cost today for her. We're all like that to some degree because we care. We're all in this profession for the same reason, whether we work in a nursing home, whether we do home health, hospital acute, or outpatient. We're all the same person. We just care. And I care. And that's why I'm doing this. I realized that I could not make any change from the inside of that organization. I knew I wasn't going to be able to make change. First off, they didn't want me to, and they put up all kinds of barriers. So I remember, Emil can attest to this. How many times did I blow up that group me chat with questions in the Maryland thing?
Well, first of all, I was off. I was going to take a year off.
Oh, well.
You kind of messed it up for me.
I couldn't, right?
Yeah. But going back to I do think it's possible to make change from within. Sometimes change comes slowly. It's a trickle effect, but a bucket gets full one drop at a time. So I've had to be patient with a lot of things too. In terms of students, it's part of your tuition to be a member of the APTA, if I'm not mistaken. I know that it was for me.
Depends
I'm
on
not
school,
sure if it was the same. It depends on
Public
school.
schools aren't allowed to do that. Private schools can.
I went to public school. I had to pay out of pocket for my 3 years.
Okay, well, I went to a private. I went to a private institution, so.
I was at
however, Kent State pays for their students, at least their PTA program. They don't have a PT program, but they do it. Put into their course fees or something like that. But it depends, and I'd have to go back and look at which. I've had a lot of students in different schools. Some get paid, some have to pay themselves, whichever it is.
So
we were required to do it, but we got no compensation for it.
Same.
It was just something that we were expected to do, and we had to find a way how to do that. The student thing I think is a tricky one, because I think back to when we were coming out of a PT role. Once you spent 3 years, and as I mentioned, at some institutions over $100,000. I mean, the first thing that you want to see coming in is a paycheck, and as big as possible, and anything that is drawing from that now becomes negative, right? So I can speak from my personal experience that I was a member first year or so, and when I started paying the full dues, because you go from the student rate, which I think is for like a year or two after you graduate, and then they graduate you to the full-fledged one. There just wasn't in it for me, like a magazine and acts to some Joes just wasn't going to cut it. Going to CSM was fun, and getting some sort of a discounted admission into CM was cool, but when I'm looking at money coming in and money out, there just wasn't there to keep there. But at the same time, like I don't know. This is just maybe my small-minded mentality. I just don't feel that the APTA, or in my case the FPA for Florida, I don't think that they have enough power or juice to really impact reimbursement and those kind of changes. So for me personally, like I don't expect from them. I don't think it's realistic for them to be able to do that. I mean, we're talking a much bigger problem and things that I just don't think they can do it, right? So for me, advocacy, like Scott had said, other stuff is kind of some. I know the advocacy should come first. I just know it that way, but that's just me, right? Everything for me is kind of transactional. So I was giving the APTA money, they were giving me X, Y, and Z. Didn't make sense anymore. So I loose, and that's been well over 10 years. I think what this year I'll be 20 years from when I started, so it'll be 17 years that I would have graduated. And that's
so young.
Don't feel like that sometimes.
You're also young.
But
I'm like 30 years into this thing.
But that thing, I mean, I think with students it's hard, especially with how much money spending right now. It's hard enough to get a return value just on education, right? With salaries and not, let alone trying to get some sort of membership.
So, Alex, you bring up something very interesting, and I do believe a lot of people feel like you. Like, no matter how big an organization gets, whether it's APTA or UPTA, can we really move the needle against these billion-dollar earning insurance companies?
I think that's a really good point. And it's something that my viewpoints have changed a little bit on over the years. Is the APTA and UPTA combined strong enough to move that needle? And again, it goes back to systems are going to system, but I don't know. The true power in that lies within our patients really advocating for themselves, which is very, very difficult because most of them don't have great health policy literacy to begin with, and that's not their fault. I wouldn't expect them to. Most providers don't have that. But what I've looked at over the years is as I've seen that change, and I've kind of like looked at what I'm actually looking at, the things that the APTA is going for are things that I'm not really like this is a disconnect from clinical practice. Going back to the point Scott made about it being, the APTA is an academic organization. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying there's a knock, but it's the reality. I've done a breakdown on Twitter for both the APTA and the NATA on their year-end awards at like CSM or NATA. And even though a very small percentage of PTs or ATs are in academia, the majority of awards and fellowships and everything at the end of the year goes to them. And if everybody's always will go, it's because they have more time to do the the community stuff or the fellowships or the research or the service project. And it's like, yeah, but clinicians are kind of doing that all the time. It's just not, out there. And that's caused a disconnect. I was upset the other day. I saw the California Physical Therapy Association posted a CEU on craniosacral therapy. Look, I'm not going to knock manual therapy, but when you're promoting something that's been disproven for 30 years and you're approving CEUs for it still, like, I'm not seeing growth there in clinics. Okay. At the end of the day, and I've read on this, we are judged by our floor, not by our ceiling. Every person who comes through my door has a bad physical therapy experience. We're doing nothing to address that. So when I look at professional organizations, I want to see them improve themselves. Okay. We aren't doing anything to stop the mill clinics. In fact, we give them booths of CSM. We're not doing anything to combat low quality care or things that grift patients and take money from patients under the guise of this is going to fix you. Okay. We are not promoting good quality care. And part of that is the reimbursement issue. Part of that is things that are bigger at factors in play. But quite frankly, we aren't teaching good clinical skills. A lot of students go on clinical sites and are used as free labor. So, should we really be paying CIs if they're just using the students illegally and unethically to create revenue for the clinic? No, obviously not. And obviously the clinical site should not be used. But globally as a whole, as a profession, we, I don't want to sound doom and gloom, but like the overwhelming quality is not in a good spot right now. And we have to take a really hard look at why that is. And unfortunately, much of that is our own doing. We make it very, very easy to pass blame to insurance companies. We make it very easy to pass blame on prior auth or unreasonable workloads or high cost of tuition. We make it very easy to do that. But very few people have taken the time to educate themselves and arm themselves with the knowledge that they can use their knowledge and their position to actually create a better environment for them. And until we really truly hone in on that and recognize that, I don't see big scale change.
Well, and to that point too, Nick, like, it's hard for us, whether under the APTA banner or the UPTA banner, to come together when we're our biggest enemies. Mm-hmm. Like you take a snapshot of what happens, and I mean, I always say like social media is not real. People Twitter fingers and all that fun stuff. But if you just take a snapshot, how many times do we see clinicians going at each other for techniques that they've used or how they address themselves on social media and stuff? Like, we just go against each other. So the idea that we're now going to come together to battle and try to catch a bigger fish seems pretty daunting to me, because it's just something that we don't play nice with each other, let alone play nice to try to accomplish a common goal. So I think that's also a big obstacle for us. But Scott, in your conversations with different people, clinicians, business owners, whatever, what seems to be a common theme that here in regards to some of the APTA maybe doing well or not well, or one of each, and how you would kind of propose an alternate route to whatever that may be?
I get a lot of people that DM me on LinkedIn or Messenger, and just one of the first things they say is, "Thanks for starting this. We've wanted something different for a while." I think everybody has the same issues. It's based around pay and reimbursement, and I get it. Can we change that? I don't know, but we can educate the public as to why their health insurance is so much more, but we haven't gotten a bump in pay in forever. We can help them understand why this is all happening. We can do an educational campaign to explain why, if you're going to see a doctor at XYZ health system, you still have the option to go someplace else. And if you have commercial insurance, it'll probably be about 3 to 5 times cheaper to go there. We can do educational programs for that. We can do, people have heard of super groups. Maybe we need to leverage size to have negotiating powers. Has anybody heard of the machine readable files that insurance companies have? Anybody familiar with that? No. I'll fill you all in. Are you familiar with it, Mel? I think I sent you something.
That was
right?
one of the things you sent to me in preparation.
Yeah.
For
So the Transparency Act of 2020, I think it was, came through, stated that all insurance companies have to display publicly their negotiated in-network rates. Remember, that was a big taboo. I couldn't know what Nick was making. Nick couldn't know what I was getting from Blue Cross or whatever one. Not allowed to know, if you tell them it's an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. So that's out there. So now I can get those files. Now they're in JSON format, so I have to find somebody to crack the code, but there's people to do that. Now I can see what Nick makes on the same patient that I see with the same insurance. And I can see what the health system across the street makes, right? And we can compare those rates and say, wow, you're coming for a total knee replacement, and it's going to cost you $224 over at the health system. You come over to us, it's $82. And then we can advertise that to the community. Why would you go into the health system and pay $225 for this and we don't have to? Go see Dr. Nick. He'll take care of you for $18. Price transparency, just like anything else in this world that we buy has a sticker on it. We can read the price. It doesn't have it in healthcare at all. So if we make it transparent, then you'll start getting some of those patients away from the health system, right? And it'll kind of level the playing field. And then you start saying to the insurance companies, we get together, maybe the two associations, saying, hey, this is kind of a restraint of trade here. Like, we're doing the same. I'm buying a burger at McDonald's and you're charging me Ruth's Chris price for the same burger I'm eating. That's wrong. That's a restraint of trade. And I think we need to be a little more aggressive in how we approach these things and try to go at it from a different angle. We can write legislators all the time. Look, I do it with the UPTA because it's the simplest thing for me to do. I get a site up, I post it. Please get your patients to send letters in. Now, the problem is the APTA gets like 50,000 comments with 100,000 members. They get a 0.5% out of every member sends a comment. We got like 680 comments with 150 members. So I'm like a 4-to-1 ratio. But I sent everybody a little $49 Kindle tablet and everybody made fun of me. But those tablets that I sent for $49 got engagement of like 120 per tablet. Now imagine if the APTA bought $49 tablets and sent them to all their members, and they got just 100 people to sign in from that on their 75,000 members. That's how many? We get $7.5 million letters sent to 7.5 million letters sent to Congress. Now, will they listen? I don't know, but that's a lot of emails going to Congress. It's a lot more than the 230 that showed up for Capitol Hill Day for the APTA, and that in and of itself is an embarrassment. And what really rubs me about that is I wanted to go, but you know how much it was going to cost me to go? The APTA wanted to charge me $250 to go. Like, what's the deal? We're advocating for a profession. You got 15 million in profits from 2020 to 2023, and you can't pay the fee to go there and sit and listen to the person that's telling you what to do and to get your forms and go. Imagine if we had 10,000 of us show up. And 230, if I was a legislator, I'd be like, this is all you got? And probably half of them were students, Mo, right? They probably have students. Yeah. You're on mute. You're muted.
I'm sorry. Some were students, but there were members as well too. FYI, Maryland Advocacy Day is on the 18th of February. It's free. You don't have to pay anything.
I went last year.
So show up. Show up between 8:30 and 12:30.
Do you want me
with all that passion?
Do you want me to come? I'll come.
Yes, come on down.
I'll show up. That's fine. I have a UPTA jacket this year too. I have a sublimated UPTA jacket blazer. I'll wear it.
No problem.
So just to clarify, then, if you, Scott, on your own accord want to go to the advocacy stuff, would you have to, like, when you?
I would have had to pay $250 to go to that thing.
No, but not with APTA. Could you go on your own? And so would you still have to?
I mean, I could have gone, but they were probably saying, like, who are you and what are you doing here? You don't know what we're advocating for. We got these bills and we got these, because they set up the whole set. That's the day. It's like, you're from Maryland, you're going to go see this representative, and here's your stuff. So, I mean, if I showed up, they'd probably say, who are you and why are you here? And where's your money? So that's the stuff that really gets under my skin. Is like, it's not like they don't have the money to afford to just pay for members to come. That's what's really frustrating, especially around the capital area. How many physical therapists are in the DC area? There are tens of thousands of us, right? Imagine if they say, hey, look, you call the company and say, this is the APTA call. We really need you today. we're advocating for the Medicare physician fee schedule cut, and we need your voice. Can you spare one of your employees? Now, if I'm an owner, which I am, what do you think I would have said? Even if I'm not an APTM, what do you think I would have said? Yes, of course. Nick, would you have said yes if you were an owner?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
most of us are good people, right? And we care.
Say yes to February 18th. Scott, I hope I see you there.
From Maryland?
Yes.
Oh, look, if you're inviting me personally, I'll show up.
All right. Bring a team.
I'll try. I'm from 2.5 hours away, so I can't bring my team, but I'll see if I can get
some. It's all right. I'll treat you to lunch then.
Oh, you're so nice. I like it.
All right.
Scott, what are you hoping to accomplish here in the near future, next 2 to 3 years?
Well, we hope to see our membership grow, obviously, and we posted on our membership agreement that up to 80% of your dues will be used toward advocacy. And what we have to realize is the APTA and the UPTA are 501c6s, right? That's how they're structured. So a 501c6 can spend as much money as they want on lobbying as long as it's toward their mission, right? So a lot of times people are like, the APTA can't spend your dues on lobbying. Yes, they can. They just have to let you know in advance how much of it they will spend if they're going to spend more of it. So lobbying does not mean, like I said earlier, giving money to a candidate. Lobbying is education. It's going to meet legislators. It's holding town meetings. It's all those different things. That's lobbying. So our goal this year is to get in front of just 50 legislators throughout the country. Get our members in front of them. I already have packets together of the Medicare fee schedule cuts over the years, what MedPAC recommended for 26. So I don't know if you're familiar with MedPAC. They're what gives CMS, actually what gives the Congress recommendations of what to do with Medicare spending. And they recommended an inflationary bump starting in 26, minus 1%. So that would give us like a 1.6% bump next year and every year thereafter going forward, which would be like, wow, we would all, I think, just appreciate a little bit of a bump. So that's in the flyer. It tells them like, hey, MedPAC recommends this. You give that to your legislator. I've got nice presentation folders with our logo around the front so we can give it to the legislator so it kind of stands out in the room if they throw it somewhere. It's not just a blue folder sticking there in the corner. They know what it is. It's got our logo on it. Trying to be somewhat professional in how we're approaching this. And our goal is, just for the first year, 50 legislators. And then when the bill comes out from the House in terms of the fee schedule, whatever they're going to, what they're going to do this year, the inflationary bump, whatever, get that up on our advocacy page. And here's another thing I do as the UPTA. If you're in a state and you have a bill that you're trying to get pushed through, a lot of times the APTA doesn't have a state level advocacy email system. I don't think Maryland has one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mel, but I don't think there was a page that our constituents or members could go to and push it out to say Andy Harris or all the senators or what have you. I can do that. So if there's a bill in Maryland that we know of that we want to support, you give it to me. I'll post it and I'll give you all the QR code to share with your patients and your other PTs. So if you have something, I think you're in Ohio. If there's something in Ohio coming down for direct access, and you don't have that, or prior authorizations or fair copay, whatever.
Just got that passed. Yeah.
What passed?
Fair copay act in Ohio.
So that's great. So if you have something like that you want to help advocate for, you give it to me. I'll post on our site. I'll give you the QR code. You can just link it and then snap a photo. Patient, you know how QR codes work. But I'll do that. And whatever state, whatever you want to do, I'll advocate through for the UPTA. And by doing that, it would probably apply pressure to the larger association, which has $15 million in the bank, to maybe add that service to all states so that they can advocate locally. So that's how we create change from the outside instead of the inside. To Mo's point earlier, change can occur, but you have to realize you have to pass the House of Delegates, right? And the House of Delegates is full of what profession? What setting? Correct, academia. So they know each other, right? So they're going to push each other forward. They're going to see me and say, who's Scott Gardner? He's just a clinician in Ocean City, Maryland. Oh, well, okay, we don't know him. So they're going to push their like setting through. And that's nothing against that. That's just kind of how human nature works. We stay in our pack, right? So to create change, to get to that board, that's a huge leap. I could have been nominated. I probably wouldn't even gotten close to getting to it. But at least I would have been slated, right? But I wasn't even slated. So anyway, but
you could always try to run again. But okay, so I'm glad that a patient setting, private practice owners are coming together to advocate. Do you feel like you two are alienating other settings, like those who might be in academia that would like to be part of that are not members of the APTA, or someone in acute care, subacute care? There's so many different clinical settings.
Yes,
so can they just be looking in saying this is just about private practice owners?
They certainly can, and they could be skeptical. But I'm just the spark. I'm just the spark. So if you're in home health and you're unhappy, you want to have your voice heard, call me, DM me, email me. Alex is gonna do that. But what has been the biggest lesson that you've learned so far in forming the UPTA? To tune out the people that aren't supportive. And there's a lot of people that aren't supportive, and that doesn't affect me. I don't really care. That's fine. There's an organization for them, and they're already members for it. But I get a lot of negativity, and it just goes right off my back. I'm at the age now where it doesn't affect me anymore. I've had a lot of things happen to me in my personal life. I had a heart attack when I was 43. That kind of puts things in perspective in your life, that it's short. And you want to try to achieve your goals. My parents both died from COVID in 21. That impacted me hard. So, I follow my dream, and I listen to, and basically I talk to my parents every day. And, sometimes I think there's just a higher calling of what you're doing. And this is just what I'm doing. And where it leads me, I don't know. But like I said, I'm just the spark. And I hope I just get more people involved. And if it's with me, great. If it's not with me and it's with the APTA, great. I just want us all to kind of work together. Hence the name United, right? We all need to be advocates, and we need to teach them young to be an advocate for your profession. To Alex's point, it was too expensive, right? And I get it. Well, then what can the APTA do to offset that for him? Maybe while he's repaying his debt for 10 years, he's only paying $100 a year to be a member. And then when his debt's gone, he can go up to normal fees. Maybe when we have certifications, like I was an OCS for 20 years, guess what it got me? Zero, right? It got me the OCS initials after my name, and I felt proud like a peacock when that test came back, and I racked it like a 92. I was like, I knew my stuff, because I'm in a rural area. I'm not surrounded by a lot of people, right? So I was proud of my accomplishment, right?
You know why we're laughing? Because Alex shares the same thing, and he has OCS, but he's in home.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, oh, wait, you want me to know, or PTs don't want to know about it. But here's a thought, all right? The same insurance companies don't want to give us any more money. So why can't we as an association, why can't we advocate that if you get a specialty certification that shows that you're very knowledgeable in that setting, whether it's OCS or PCS, or that when a patient calls, and I've been practicing almost 30 years, why does the new grad get $65 a visit and I get $65 a visit? When the patient calls and says, I really want to see Scott. I want to see Scott, because they know me, because I've been around forever, and they know what I can do for them, right? So if I have a certification, a specialist certification, why can't we lobby the insurance company to say, if we get this certification, we can add a $25 fee on top of the visit that we charge the patient cash. It doesn't affect the insurance company at all, right? It's just a fee. It's like if I go get my hair done, right? And I go to the stylist, and I get the junior stylist, the senior stylist, the master stylist. They all charge different fees for their skill level, right? Why can't we charge fees for our skill? If I'm honest, yes, and you really want to see me, then it's a $20 surcharge. And that $20 goes to the PT. Or there's an agreement that we say, okay, 80% goes to the PT and 20% goes to the clinic owner. Because maybe the clinic owner paid for that person to get the specialty certification. So now they're engaging their staff for higher learning. And we're getting more certified therapists in the country in whatever specialty you want. Now there's a surcharge when you get that therapist to work with you. Now, if you don't want that, maybe that's what the PT assistant is for, but maybe they have their own specialty certification. They can do something to advance their career. these are like just whiteboarding ideas. But why am I thinking of them? Like,
I
I mean,
think
they're good ideas. They're very good ideas. I like it, but
remember, Mel,
I think more clinicians need to know about insurance stuff and having faith to opt out of contracts, because a lot of people are negotiating in-network contracts that are not good for business with the reimbursement, and then expect the APTA to be doing their bidding.
Fix that. But
The APTA cannot fix that.
No, but what if we can't get to the point where these insurance companies are like, I don't care if you charge those fees. You can charge $30 for specialty certification because you're board certified. So, like, these are ideas that I think need to be thought of. But remember, I wasn't qualified to be on that board.
But Scott, that specific idea, I love. What is stopping you from implementing that in your business? I mean, because
my contracts don't allow me to do that.
But couldn't you figure out some other way to do it? Some sort of bonus or something? Well, I mean, it's a great idea. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love it. And the reason laughing earlier here is because even if you gave me, if I was your clinician and you gave me $20-$30 for every visit that I did any patient, man, it would take a lot of those patients for me to be able to renew my certification. And that's a whole different topic. And that's why my SCS way is because the amount of money that was being asked of me to keep something that I had worked so hard for, and I'm just
why is it every
money.
10 years? Like, why isn't it just in perpetuity, as long as you can show that you've taken classes that are engaging for orthopedics? Like, you know why? All you have to do is look at the 990, and you'll see why. Because they make about $10 million a year on their certifications. Why do you think there's a huge push in January with ads from the APTA? Sign up now for your certification test.
It does seem like a lot of
they
people
make
drop
$10
their
million.
certifications.
Absolutely.
So it's like they should be in perpetuity.
And
or if it's like, a renewal, it's 13.
You can't add that cost on top to the patient. You know, it's similar to like within the contracts, you can't waive a copay. Like,
right.
So you got somebody who's you know on a bad insurance plan, they've got an $8,000 deductible, they got a $60 copay. It's like, well, we'll just take what your insurance company gives us. You can't do that, you know. And you know, like in private practice, okay, I get somebody who comes in with an $80 copay. An $80 copay is going to be 95% of their visit. You go across the street, all of a sudden the $80 copay is about 35% of their visit, you know. So, you know, unfortunately, like, you know, you want to say, man, I can't believe this copay is out of control. And something I've been thinking about, you know, recently on along that line is, I don't think a lot of people see the bad reimbursement. Okay, even talking about going up to systemic things. Okay, you talk about let's say you're a member of Congress, right? You guys, the two of you are in Maryland, right? Mo, you're in the DMV area. Okay, what do you think of the major, you know, hospital system that all of the congressmen and representatives go to? Okay, they're going to go to the best hospital system, right? You know, just like people here, we're going to go to the Cleveland Clinic, right? Just the name.
It's the name, right?
Okay. Let's say they have Anthem. I know they've all got government insurance, but let's say they have Anthem, and they go to see a physical therapist. What do you think their bill is going to be for one session? $300, $400? Okay. Maybe they have a family member who's not on government insurance. They go to that same hospital system because they get the best because they're Congress. And then we come to more like, well, reimbursement's terrible. They're like, well, my grandma went to whatever hospital and they get a $500 bill for an evaluation and $250 for a visit after that. And that's probably even, you know, that's probably relatively in the ballpark. So maybe that's where some of their disconnect is coming from. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think people think of that. Like, hold on.
Right. We have to introduce.
They had home health come in and they got a bill for $10,000 for a week of care or something. You know, I'm throwing random numbers out here, but
no. You might be good depending on how many services are in there. So that's why I laughed.
You know, so you look at that and like, okay, maybe what is their lived experience with their experiences with physical therapy? Because I promise you, Senator Johnson is not going to Scott's physical therapy
Come on, man.
you know what I mean? Like they're not. That's the reality.
Man. Come on, man.
No offense. Hey,
I'm well known
they
in my
come to
little
see me
community.
either. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not coming to see me.
If he's
They're not
following you
going
on
to
X, he's
All-Star
coming to
Physical
you.
Therapy.
If he did that backflip on your X feed,
Yeah.
that girl you treated, if they see that, they're going to see you, man.
Yeah, I would hope. But you know, I mean, that's the reality. So they don't see that. You know,
Right.
and people who have the ability to make changes, they don't.
Right. I mean, look, when you're in Congress or on any state delegation, there's so many issues. You can't be aware of everything that's wrong in your district.
Right.
So that's when you have to bring them a piece of paper and say, these are site neutral payments. Here's what they get. Here's what I get. They'll say, wow, that's really bad. You'll say, yeah. Just like my one of my local reps in Maryland, I brought up TPAs. They're like, what do they do now? I said, they take about $120 of the visit and give me 60. Why do they do that? I said, because they can, and it's wrong. Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
So we just have to educate the Congress person just like we educate our consumer. And that's one of our goals, obviously, as the UPTA. And look, when you have 15.3 million sitting in the bank as a large association, why aren't we doing that? Like, why aren't we doing that? And that's where I get irritated. It's like, you know, instead of giving $1.2 million in bonuses and extra compensation to your top 13 employees in 1 year, why don't you do a $1 million rally down Capitol Hill with tens of thousands of people and tell them you're unhappy with what's happening? You know, you can do that. There's companies that actually do these rallies for you, and they'll find constituents that support your narrative and have them show up. I mean, there's things we can do. If we can't get the apathetic therapist to show up, we can sure find constituents that do it. You know, but I mean, that's what I get at to the heart of this is like, I just want to see more work done for me, for Alex, for Mo, for Nick, in whatever setting you are. And if you're working in a nursing home and you're unhappy, then join us and become the lead chair of that subcommittee and drive the narrative. If you're in home health and you're unhappy, join us, become the chair of that, sit on our board, and drive the narrative. That's all I'm asking. And that's what it's all about.
So, sorry. If let's just say by the grace of a magic wand, we put you in charge of the money at APTA.
In charge of the what?
What? In charge of the money at APTA, right? Like we just waved the wand and we put you in charge of the money. What is a reasonable number to be spent on advocacy and stuff like that? Because you know you bring up the numbers, which I you know, kudos to you because you can definitely tell you've done your research, you've put time. This isn't something that you're just kind of off the cuff with. But what would you like to see, right? Like, what would be acceptable to you?
Well, you know, in terms of a percent, I can't really give you a percent of what I think. But what I would say is, after all my bills are done and they're paid, if I've got $5 million left, I would probably take a huge portion of that, looking at what I have in investments, which they have an investment. If you look at the 990, there's a huge chunk of money in investments that I would assume can be used in an emergency situation for expenses. If I got $5 million in profit, and what's the association designated? A non-profit. Doesn't mean they can't make profit, but it means the money goes towards their mission, right? So maybe they're socking it away for a rainy day. Maybe they're going to buy another building on the West Coast. I don't know. You know, they got a $45 million building right now on the Potomac. So, you know, I don't know. But if I was on that board and the board has fiduciary oversight, you know that, right? First thing I'd say is our honorarium is too high. We shouldn't be making this much money to help these people that aren't making as much. So let's cut that. And I'd say if we're making $5 million, why can't we take 2.5, which is 50% of that profit, and have a think tank, get all the great minds together in our field and say, where do we need to put this? What would be the most effective thing we can do with 2.5 million to get the word out to the public and to the profession that we mean business? And could you imagine if you opened up your X or whatever, or your Facebook, and you saw a post that said APTA holds large scale rally in DC, drawing 100,000 people, and it's a little blurb in there, and then you reach out and you say, yeah, we spent our $2 million to advocate for you because we're upset that you're not getting the reimbursement you deserve from your Medicare, and we're on the federal level, so we're going to do that, and then we're going to take another $1 million and we're going to divvy it up to the states that have issues they're really focusing on. So Nick's in Ohio, they got fair copay, they need help, they need money. Check, Nick, $50,000, go for it. That's me. That's me. That's what I would do. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But I don't need that. We don't need that money. Money doesn't need to sit there in a bank. It's a war chest for what I don't know. But why aren't they doing it? And that's the questions that need to get asked. And it's tough questions to ask, and they're answers that people probably don't want to give. But it's transparency is key now. You know, we can get on a topic. We're running out of time. We can go off on CAPTI if you want to, an independent entity that's based at the APTA that has no tax ID number that draws in $3.8 million a year in annual fees, plus the other fees they charge for $2,600 a day for the first person to go out to show up. $2,600 a day. Where can I apply? Where can I apply? So these are questions that need to be asked. It is your profession, right? And whether you like it or not, the APTA drives the bus, right? So that they want the DPT, we're going to have the DPT, and you're going to pay $250,000 for your education and make as much as you did as a bachelor's degree in 1990. You know, they drive the bus, and whether you like it or not, they're in charge of CAPTI, even though it's not really theirs, or they're not associated. But you know, CAPTI is anyway. They make the rules, right? So if you don't want to be involved with any association, you can't complain when things aren't going your way. You just got to eat it and go on. Just, you know, if you're not involved in anything, you didn't do anything to make a difference. Stop complaining. That's the way I look at it now in my life.
Say it again, people in the back.
If you're not involved, stop complaining. All right. If you want to make a difference, get into the APTA or get in the UPTA, be the change and the solution. All right. Stop just sitting on a Reddit page and complaining about the APTA or even the UPTA. Stop it. Grow up, put your money where your mouth is, and be active. And if you join the APTA and their membership goes up by 5,000 members, I'm happy. Because at the end of the day, I don't care where it goes as long as it goes to advancing our profession. Do I want you to join me? Of course I do. Because I want to help change the narrative some and push that big old ship or bus in a slightly different direction where the money goes. Because that's what I can do from the outside. But I'm only 3 months old, everybody. I'm not 104 years. Now, give me 104 years, I won't be here anymore. But, you know, I don't know if UPTL still exists. If it does, by then maybe it's merged together with the other one. And maybe it's a bigger association. I don't know. But that's my hope, is for the profession to succeed, so that as I get sail off in the twilight of my career, I'm just like, man, this association, this profession is on the right path. We got to fix education. We got to try to fix reimbursement. If we can't fix reimbursement, we got to find new models, direct primary care for us, whatever it may be, to drive revenue in for practitioners and to navigate these rough seas. So that's it. I'm just a spark, everybody. I don't have all the answers. I'm just a spark.
Hey, a spark can cause a major brush fire.
Yeah, I watch Survivor. I've seen it happen in person.
So, Scott, I really want to thank you for accepting the invitation. I think this was a very spirited discussion. I do wish you all the best.
I'll see you enlightened. You know what? I won't be able to go because I'm out of town on vacation.
See, he keeps coming up.
I just remembered I'm on vacation that week. I'm not going to come back from my vacation to go to Annapolis and freeze. You know? I'll be there in spirit.
Okay, but you know, you can start sending advocacy letters and stuff and emails. So, and you can encourage your constituents to do the same. We'd appreciate it.
You tell me what bills there are for Maryland, because I don't know which ones you guys are advocating for, but I know what they're.
We'll send it to you.
If there's a bill, tell me. I'll post it. I'll share it with you. You can share it with everybody.
Okay, we'll do. But yes, so if there's probably a need for another discussion, it will probably be after CSM. So we'll definitely send you the invitation again.
You want me to go to CSM?
No.
And I wear my UPTA jacket? I don't know. I get some dirty looks, I think, but you know, this is what it is. I don't mind.
Nick,
like I said, I don't care anymore. But.
Nick, got any final words, my man?
I think this was a really valuable discussion. And if you come into it with an open mind, I think there's a lot to take from it. First off, I want to say, I have a lot of biases that tend to side with Scott. A lot of those complaints that he's mentioned have been things that I've been vocal about. And, I'm trying to grow as a person and be a little more, give a little more grace in my reactions. So I'm trying to be a little more level-headed, but I mean, I do have a lot of agreements with what he says, so I appreciate that. And like I said at the start, a big thing is we need more people like Mo in the APTA because, and as long as I've known you, and this is our fourth podcast together, I think, and we've conversed, outside of this. It's a rarity to hear somebody in today's society who's willing to step back and say, let me listen to the other side of things. And as we continue to progress as a society, not just from a physical therapy standpoint, but as a whole, divisiveness continues to grow. And it's really, really challenging to address these concerns as that gets worse. And to have two people be able to, on opposing sides, be able to respect each other's concerns, just a huge value here that for those who want to hear it, they'll find it. Those who want to sit and listen to this with a singular lens of either whether it's pro UPTA or pro APTA, they're not going to get anything out of this conversation. And that's problematic. And, that seems like it's what we do in our profession. So, whether it's therapy versus manual or whatever the hell you want to look at, you come to this conversation with no lenses on, you're gonna take a lot away. So thank you to both of you again and for creating this discussion and to Scott for coming on and again for having me. I really appreciate being part of these talks. Somebody who lives in the middle of nowhere in Northeast Ohio in a cornfield, at least makes me feel like I'm trying to do something too. So I do appreciate that opportunity.
Yeah, appreciate you being here. I really do.
Good.
Alex, thank you for having me.
No, Scott, thank you again very much, man. I think for me, I came into this knowing very little. If I'm being 100% honest, I hadn't heard of what you're trying to do and are working for, but to hear you talk, I can see that it's a passion, and I feel like it's an authentic passion, and it's one that is driven by, like you said, trying to do what's best for our profession, and whether it comes from you or comes from the APTA. And, who knows what the future holds. And maybe there is a way for, your association and the APTA to kind of find that middle ground, work together and be that change. But like you said, the spark's got to come from somewhere. And for now, for it to be, for you to take on this task, and is major kudos and hats off to you, because it's not something that is easily done, and it's very easy to just say, hey, I'm just going to stay in my bubble and just kind of do my own thing. But to bring questions, to ask the questions, and trying to get those answers takes a lot of work and courage. So continue doing what you're doing, man. I think you have a good mind, and I hope that it continues to work so that we can ultimately make our profession better. And at this point, honestly, I think it's so much for us four that are on this, but for more so for everybody's coming behind us. I'd always told Mo that pretty soon I'm going to be on the beach somewhere, and PT world is no longer a everyday concern of mine, but it'll always be a passion. Because like you said earlier, we're all here because we enjoy helping, and we want to help people get better, and we can't get lost in these discussions why it is that we even started to do what we do. So thank you again. Really do appreciate your time.
And then, I think one thing, when I was in school, it was one of the first times they had physical therapy month. We're going back a long time, like 1993. And if I remember the tagline, it was physical therapy, the art and science of healing. Okay. So this was way before we had all this evidence-based practice stuff. So to Nick's point earlier, we talked about craniosacral and this and that. But there's an art to what we do, as well as the grounding in science. And we do tend to bicker with each other about what's the best way to get to the end point. But sometimes it doesn't matter how we get there, as long as we have good outcomes and we take care of our patients. So I think we need to stop bickering so much, to Nick's point, and just put those things aside. Like I may like it treating a certain way and Nick may want to do it another way. One way may get there quicker, but as long as we still get there in a reasonable amount of time, it's good. But I'm just pro PT. You know, we need everybody in every setting to do their job to the best of their ability and to not be burnt out. That's the problem I'm seeing. So I'm just here. Like I said, I'm Spark. I really, truly appreciate everyone's time. You guys and gals are wonderful hosts. I appreciate everything you've done. And if I can ever join again, I'd love to. And
oh yeah, come on back. You never know what happens.
Well, look, if I come on, I only want to be the season premiere because that way there's more hype.
No. We hype up every episode. So.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you all.
As always, appreciate all our subscribers, everybody that always tunes into us. Obviously we're getting started season 3, similar to last season. I think Mo will agree. Like we're just kind of go with it and see where this takes us. And just have fun. You know, when Mo and I started this podcast, it was always to just have fun and be able to have discussions about topics that we felt were pertinent and important to us, but also help us, think a little bit differently and just have a change of mind sometimes, different perspectives. So more of that to come. Everybody have a good evening. Be safe and take care. God bless.
Good night, everyone.
Touch for Maryland.